Good morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Jonathan Chilia, joined by my co-host, Julian, and here are your headlines for today. Thousands of WhatsApp messages between Jürgen Fenech and cabinet member to be presented in court. Dream Serie A debut for Maltese footballer, 16-year-old Hailey. Bernard GRECH, tax issues under the microscope. Convicted sex traffickers get second chance after rights breach. And Halfa residents charged after attempted escape to Italy on a stolen boat. Julian, quite a mix of stories today.
Yes, quite I guess an active weekend, lots going on. So to just get things going, thousands of WhatsApp messages between Jürgen Fenech and a Maltese cabinet member will be presented to court. I think there are more than 2,000 WhatsApp exchanges between the pair. That's not all that's going to be presented in court. As part of the evidence, 800 messages between Fenech and Keith Kembry, the former Prime Minister's disgraced Chief of Staff, will also be submitted. So these contents sort of emerged to a report on Illum. Essentially, these contents were lifted off of Fenech's phone when he was arrested last November, if you remember well. That phone was immediately given to Europol experts, and they've sort of been keeping it for the time being, but now they'll soon be presented court. WhatsApp groups and WhatsApp things have already been a big part of this trial. So a WhatsApp group has already been confirmed between Joseph Muscat, Jürgen Fenech and Keith Kembry.
There you go.
While the PN also landed itself in hot water when Delia's messages to Jürgen Fenech were also confirmed. The PN are also part of the story yesterday, so 700 messages between Fenech and the former PN head of media, Pier Portelli, are also going to be submitted. So quite a lot of hot stuff on Jürgen Fenech. We'll be following it in court. The next sitting, I think, is around October. I don't know, things are heating up, especially with the links. Some officials, including Keith Kembry, as we also found out yesterday.
Another story. I mean, it does seem like Jürgen Fenech had a very active WhatsApp list, but as you're hinting at, what I found very interesting was a little bit of another development that we found out. So it turns out through a Freedom of Information request that back in 2019, Jürgen Fenech had been caught with cocaine at George Bush International Airport in Houston, Texas. He was landing on a flight coming from London, and apparently a passenger had spotted Fenech snorting cocaine in a bathroom, an airline bathroom. This led to the police questioning Fenech, and as he was being questioned, he listed Keith Kembry as his next of kin. It just goes to show how closely connected these two men were. He was found with 8 grams of cocaine, and after this whole arraignment, he ended up some time in rehab. I'm sure he had a lovely time there.
Howdy.
But yeah, it just goes to show just how closely these two men were connected. Just think about it. He was arrested for drug charges in America, and he still felt confident enough to link this man and say this man was his next of kin. Incredible. But moving on to the next story, a very, very positive story. I love to see these kind of things. A Maltese footballer, 16-year-old Hailey Bugeja, had her Serie A debut, and she absolutely killed it. She scored 2 goals in a glorious win over Napoli ladies, 3-1 win as part of her team, Sassuolo Femminile. Did you see the goals yourself?
Yes, I saw the goals. Wow, I mean, the first one was so nice. She passed 4 players before slotting in, and the second one was such a nice finish.
Now, what's incredible is that she's just 16 years old. We've covered her story a little bit. You know, she moved to Italy. She actually spoke to us a little bit about her experience living alone and, leaving Malta at such a young age to pursue her dream. But I mean, if this is her debut, I can't wait to see more of what Hailey Bugeja is going to be kicking around on the field. So definitely, Hailey, big shout out to you. Well done. Everyone here at Lovin is totally in support of you. Everyone in Malta is totally in support of you. So keep up that game, girl.
Yeah, football and women's football in Malta is really taking the next step. Unfortunately, on the men's side, things are still struggling a bit. I mean, we're all still reading from that bruising defeat to the much smaller Faroe Islands. Last night, Malta was still unfortunately robbed the victory after drawing 1-1 against Latvia. Malta went ahead after the 15 minutes through Kieran Nwoko. But that good feeling was short-lived when we scored an own goal only a few minutes later. You know, at the end of the day, even though it was a draw, it was still a spirited performance from the side. And Latvia were slight favourites. But, I mean, it's time to start winning a bit, you know. Our female footballers are doing so well. It's time for our men to also step up. The next game is on 10th October against Andorra.
So, you know, guys, definitely take a leaf out of Hayley's book. Whatever she's doing it right.
Yeah, no, really well done.
Moving on to the next story.
Yeah, on our next story, PN related. So the third story is about Bernard Grech, the PN leadership hopeful, allegedly rushing to get his tax affairs in order ahead of the leadership election.
That's exactly right.
So if you don't remember, Bernard Grech and Adrian Delia were sort of made to go through a due diligence test before the leadership race. And it seems Grech had some of his own tax issues. So the Times of Malta reports that on the 12th August, he sort of settled his affairs, having to pay a €2,000 penalty in interest. Malta today put up his bill to actually quite a high number. So it said between 2014 and 2019, Grech still had to pay €29,000 worth of VAT, a massive amount. And obviously bringing concerns, I mean, over Grech's standing. At the end of the day, Adrian Delia, the guy who he's trying to beat, faced similar issues himself, questions about his finances. I don't know, I hope this doesn't happen again, and maybe we can move forward with a less scandalous opposition.
I mean, look, it's right now it's a bit of an exciting time, and it's a very important time. We've got someone who says they want to be the next leader of Malta's opposition party. This due diligence process is so important, and I think it's really important that we see the developments that go on week by week, and it's only going to heat up more. What's interesting is that there were some recent surveys over the weekend, and even though there have been so many developments, I mean, just last week there was Bernard Grech's abortion comment. It seems like every few days there's something new, but still, according to the latest surveys, you know, Adrian Delia is still trailing behind Bernard Grech, and either way, Robert Abela is still trouncing both of them. So we still have to see some on this, but you know, it's good to shine a light sometimes into these dark cupboards. Moving on to the next story, quite an interesting story. I'm going over to the courts and our legal system. So obviously, Lovin Malta has been reporting on the justice system in Malta, and I think this story is really, really important to take note of as well. So a 12-year sentence has been annulled in the case of two sex traffickers, two Hungarians, Robert Mailat and Attilane Mailat. These people have had their 12-year sentence annulled because their defense lawyers were able to argue that they weren't able to cross-examine witnesses. And I think when we look at the case, it's actually quite egregious, and it's very, very important that we look into the details. So these people were accused of, you know, sex trafficking some women, and some of the women even spoke. One woman said that, you know, they were pretty much pimping her out. She would see up to 15 clients a day. And this money was obviously given to them, given to her pimps or her sex traffickers. She even alleged that one of them had raped her. So very, very egregious stuff there. And this kind of comes in the light of discussion over whether Malta should legalize, decriminalize prostitution, change the way we see prostitution. It's very important to note that Prime Minister Robert Abela has come out and made it clear that he would not legalize brothels. What do you make of this case, Joe?
So this case is very interesting. I think on the point that you've made of the sex work issue, I think it sort of sheds a light on how difficult it can be for some women. She was only 19 when she was first purchased, but on a wider scale, I think it speaks to the issues within our justice system itself. So, I mean, obviously, this sentence was annulled because of a procedural error within Malta's courts. And now this case is going to have to go all the way back to the magistrates' courts and start all over again. So more delays to our criminal justice system, seeming more and more that we have a judiciary, but that doesn't mean that justice is being served in Malta at all. Hopefully things will change soon.
I'd love to know what you guys think about the prostitution debate going on in Malta. Should Malta legalize prostitution? Should we decriminalize? Or should we maybe have harsher punishments for sex buyers? Let us know in the comments below. Moving on to the last story of today.
Yes, so our last story sort of deals with quite a recent phenomenon we've been reporting on at Lovin Malta. So two Sudanese sort of were arrested after trying to flee Malta on a stolen boat. They stole the boat from Abuja. These guys were pretty young guys, 18 and 23. But it's sort of, I mean, this issue of people trying to escape Malta is becoming more and more common. That same day, 12 migrants themselves were even arrested trying to use fake passports. For those who don't know, the number of people using fake passports has tripled in the last year alone. I don't know what the issue is. It is the issue with open centres, with closed centres, is the migration process taking too long? I mean, we have to know why these people are trying to escape.
Now, just this last week, video footage of the conditions in some migrant centres in Malta was released online. It was quite shocking itself. But I mean, just a few days ago, a migrant died trying to flee the Halfar closed centre. He tried to flee in the middle of the night. He ended up falling and injuring himself on a fence, and he ended up dying a few hours later. This person's name still hasn't been released. Now we have people dying as they're trying to flee Malta centres, and very little is said after the fact. It's like these people don't even exist. It's very questionable as a country, as a government, how we're approaching this. Now, if it is an issue of conditions within the centres, maybe we need to start looking at the centres. Maybe we need to start having a discussion whether we need more centres, or if centres are even the best way to approach this. Because the matter of the fact is, it's so bad that some of them are risking their lives going to prison just to have a chance at freedom, to escape for a second time. This comes after they fled their countries in the first place. So, I definitely don't have the answer for this. I don't know if the government has the answer for this, but we definitely have an issue here that definitely needs some serious thought behind it. I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. From myself and Julian, have a day full of lovin'.